Forget everything you knew about medieval poverty. While kings were going broke fighting wars, a shadow network of elite women was building the most sophisticated financial empires of the Middle Ages. These weren't just nuns. They were CEO abbesses who controlled international trade, minted their own currency, and outmaneuvered the Pope himself. She took a vow of poverty, but she controlled more land than most kings. She lived behind convent walls. Yet merchants, nobles, and bishops bowed to her authority. This isn't fiction. This is the forgotten truth about the secret financial empires run by powerful medieval abbesses behind convent walls, a hidden chapter of medieval history that changes everything we think we know about nuns. And what I'm about to reveal was buried for centuries. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll understand why some abbesses were more powerful than kings and why history tried to erase them. When we think of medieval nuns, we imagine silence, prayer, isolation, submission. That's the story we were told. But here's the problem. History often erased powerful women. And the medieval church, the largest landowner in Europe, quietly allowed certain abbesses to control massive wealth. What mattered wasn't just prayer. It was power. Because in medieval Europe, land meant money. Money meant influence. And influence meant survival. And behind stone walls, women were running economic empires. Suspense line. But how did women who vowed poverty end up managing fortunes that rivaled royalty? To understand this, we need to go to Germany. Meet Hildegard of Bingen. You may know her as a mystic, a visionary, a saint, but she was also a strategist. Hildegard didn't just write theology. She negotiated land rights. She moved her convent to a more profitable location. She secured patronage from nobles, and she built financial independence for her abbey. In medieval times, an abbess could control farms, vineyards, mills, tithes, rental properties. Some abbesses even minted coins. Let that sink in. A woman in the 12th century, minting money. Suspense line. But Hildegard was only the beginning. Here's what most people don't know. Certain abbesses were given princely status. In parts of the Holy Roman Empire, abbesses ruled like territorial lords. They collected taxes. They held courts. They punished crimes. They negotiated with kings. Take the Abbey of Essen. Its abbess governed vast estates and exercised political authority. These convents weren't just religious spaces. They were corporate headquarters. What mattered was control. Because if a convent lost land, it lost survival. But the wealth created a dangerous tension, especially with men in power. Power invites enemies. Bishops wanted control. Kings wanted taxes. Local lords wanted land. And some abbesses fought back. They hired lawyers. They produced legal charters. They went to court. They defended their rights like generals defending castles. This wasn't quiet devotion. This was financial warfare. But what happens when a woman becomes too powerful in a male-dominated world? Let's break down the system. Convents generated revenue through agricultural production, wine exports, manuscript production, education of noble daughters, land leasing. Noble families paid generously to place daughters in prestigious convents. It was safety. It was status. It was influence. Behind the veil was economic intelligence. But wealth creates vulnerability. Over time, reforms shifted power back to male clergy. Political shifts reduced abbess authority. Wars devastated lands. Records disappeared. History was rewritten. The image of the powerless nun was easier to accept. But the truth? For centuries, some abbesses were financial architects of medieval Europe, and their influence still echoes today. This story isn't just about medieval history. It's about power, about narrative control, about who gets remembered and who gets erased. The problem? We assume power always looked masculine. The solution? We look deeper. We question the story. Because behind convent walls, women built financial empires. They governed land. They shaped economies. They negotiated with kings. And they did it while the world believed they were silent. So next time someone tells you medieval women had no power, remember the abbesses. Remember the hidden ledgers. Remember the wealth behind the veil. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more. What do you think? Were these abbesses spiritual leaders or economic masterminds?